Hello again, you sick, twisted weather freaks. Welcome to another fun-filled, action-packed, and intellectually stimulating edition of This Week in Weather. I'm your host and meteorologist, DT, from Weather Risk, your commander of chaos, your colonel of confusion, your captain of catastrophe. Let's talk about weather, which is the best subject in the whole world, I think. Here it is for this December 6th. We've got a couple of events to talk about. A major eastern U.S. rain and wind event coming in late December 9th into the Ohio Valley, December 10th, 11th into New England. There are some mid-December changes to the Arctic Oscillation, the NAO, the North American Oscillation. Last week, the data was kind of indicating it would stay negative. Both of those factors would stay negative right through the whole month. That's not the case now. And then we'll talk about the last 10 days of the idea of a December pattern change. Is the MJO going to go into phase 8 or not? And we'll look at the European weeklies and monthlies. So a lot to talk about here. As usual, there's the website. Get a chance, stop on by. Take a look at it. There's the Twitter page here. I'm using this here for my snowstorm page. And there it is on Threads, in case you want to go there. Some of you don't like Twitter, which is fine. And then also, just to let you know, this is the other Twitter page that I have. This is just my grain weather, my commodity stuff for the U.S. and for overseas. Okay. Let's see exactly. We'll start here taking a look at a couple of different factors here. First, in the short term, let me bring this forward here a little bit so you can see it. Okay. So this here is our upper air pattern right now going into December 8th, Friday. There's the big trough coming in, the upper lows in Alaska. Whenever you have a large upper low in Alaska, like this in the winter months, you always have a ridge in the eastern United States. This is always the kiss of death for eastern U.S. winter storms. You're not going to get anything there with that. And that's because, again, you get a ridge opposite of here, and the trough, it goes down into the Pacific Northwest and the Rockies. Then you start getting this ridge here like that. So what happens is you end up getting, storms tracking up through the Rockies. Okay. Now, I want to point out, this is the MJO. This is the current track, and this is where it is right now, phase 3 and phase 4. You see this right here? It's just moved into phase 4. Earlier in late November, December, it was here. Now, as of December 4, it's into phase 4, and this is the jet stream map general pattern for phase 4 in El Niños. And notice the extremely strong negative anomaly here, the trough on the west coast, the huge ridge, the anomaly on the eastern United States up in Canada. That is this exactly. This is an exact match, okay? You could not ask for a better, more textbook example of the MJO forecasting, independent of the models, of what the upper air pattern is going to look like. So that's one of the reasons why we use the MJO in figuring out things several days in advance, sometimes at the week 2 or week 3, because when it's strong like this, especially, closer to the edge of the diagram, the stronger the impulse is. This is the neutral circle here. So the further it is away from the neutral circle, the stronger it is. So this is a moderately strong MJO impulse. When it's strong like this, it determines the pattern completely independent of the models. Completely independent. And that's the important factor here. Okay. So what happens is, as we continue down the road here, what's going to happen is this trough moves into the central in U.S. here, pretty nice trough, and this is going to be the beginning of the big rain event. So we have this monster ridge on the East Coast. You get the high pressures off the East Coast, going to pull up a lot of wind and rain here, as you can see. And then the trough develops negative tilt here. And the trough, you can see, and that's going to cause the low pressure area to really bomb out and bring up all sorts of intense weather conditions on the East Coast for this weekend. Now, the pattern appears to be breaking in the Pacific. When you're getting some ridging in the eastern Pacific, the trough in the west coast is kind of filling in, but it doesn't last very long. We'll get to that in a little bit. All right, taking a look at our upper air maps here. For the next 5 days, there is a closed, let me bring this forward, big closed 500 low here. You can see in southeast Canada, so early in the pattern, so that's kind of what we have, 50-50 lows there. The Arctic Oscillation is negative, the NAO is negative, the EPO is positive, and of course the PNA is neutral right now. And the result is, here in the MJO, this would be for December, not January, we are in hostile conditions. MJO is not favorable for winter storms in the eastern United States. All right, at the surface, This is Saturday, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. This is the Sunday morning. The rain has really picked up here quite significantly, as you can see right along the front here. And then now ahead of the front, Sunday morning, you get all these tremendous south winds developing from the Gulf, pulling up the moisture, a lot of warm, humid air, slamming into the cold front, slams eastward. Probably going to be some thunderstorms here, I would think. Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening. Now here's the front. This is now Sunday in the upper left. This is a Sunday at 7 p.m. Now the rain has changed to snow in portions of West Virginia, Ohio, western Pennsylvania, western New York State. And then the front blows on through Sunday night. Going to be very stormy. A lot of rain late Sunday afternoon, Sunday night on the East Coast. And then this is on the bottom right. This is Monday morning. The rain has changed to snow in much of New York State, except for New York City and in Vermont. Really, really heavy rains in New England. And the temperatures ahead of the front, I mean, you can see the anomalies for the next couple of days. This is a Friday. This is Thursday max temperatures in the Midwest. You can see spreading Friday way above normal. Everybody east of the Mississippi River. This is a Saturday way above normal. And then look at these winds. This is from the GFS max gusts on Sunday midday. Probably going to be higher than that. And the reason for that is because of these winds. This is the European model here in the upper left. I'm blowing it up here at 700 millibars, about 10,000 feet. And you can see really strong winds here. If we call up a marker to point out what I'm referring to here. So you see these winds here, this pink color in here. This is 70 to 80 knot winds with the rain and the thunderstorms as the front goes through on Sunday night until Monday morning. So a very, very stormy night is likely in store. Now, in terms of the snowfall, the European model has a significant snow here. This is from early on Wednesday morning, the Wednesday morning run. But you can see moderate snow here in the Catskills, Pennsylvania. Not a big deal, but some snow in those areas. GFS has the same general idea. In terms of the rainfall, looks pretty significant. Much needed rain, as you can see, for a lot of places. New England, Mid-Atlantic, portions of Ohio, Kentucky, Tennessee, into the Carolinas and Georgia. So this is a pretty good rain event. All right. Now, as we shift into the 6 to 10 day, 11 to 15 day, we're going to talk about our teleconnections here. So this is the eastern side of North America. There are two teleconnections here. A teleconnection is a jet stream pattern or configuration, a particular type, all right? This here is the negative EPO, which is the Eastern Pacific Oscillation or the Alaskan Ridge. And then, I'm going to bring this up a little bit. And then over here is the PNA, which is the Pacific North America pattern. So these are all the different combinations you can have. Positive, neutral, negative, positive, neutral, negative. And these are the different combinations here. There's 9 of them. And on the Atlantic side, you've got these 4. You've got the Arctic Oscillation, North American Oscillation. Again, positive, neutral, negative, all these different combinations. So this is what we try and do, trying to figure out the Atlantic side and trying to figure out the Atlantic side and the Pacific side. That's what we're trying to do. Now, if we look at our different model projections here, and bring this forward, okay. This is the Arctic Oscillation, North American Oscillation. So we have the black dots is where we have been. See, December 1st, the 2nd, 3rd, 4th. Well, right now it's negative. The NAO is negative as well. But as you can see, as we go towards the middle of December, it goes towards neutral, the NAO. Now, that wasn't what I was showing earlier. Last week, it had the NAO staying negative all the way through December 15th at least. The Arctic Oscillation, same sort of thing. It goes up towards neutral. And then it kind of stays around neutral right through until almost December 20th, December 22nd, something like that, right before Christmas. If we look at the spread here on the matrix, here's the European Arctic Oscillation matrix, and the one on the right is the AO. So again, we can see very negative initially through December 10th. Then there's a bit of a positive spike here, not much. And then it's kind of like lackadaisical. Some positive, some negative here towards December 20th. The NAO, again, negative initially for the next several days, then neutral, then kind of positive, but not strongly so. If it's not positive, it's neutral. The white color is neutral, the yellow and the orange and the reds are more positive, so kind of neutral. The GFS extended does the same sort of thing. This here is the Arctic Oscillation. Now, it looks like the GFS is a little more negative with the AO than the than the European is. Here's the European. As you can see, it's a little more negative. And now we look on the Pacific side. Here's the Eastern Pacific Oscillation. Again, essentially, we're in the black dots on the left-hand side of these diagrams is where we are now. So we're positive. And it kind of trends towards neutral by December 15th. But then after that, it's just a lot of oscillation back and forth either side of the neutral line. There's the neutral line. See, just kind of meandering back and forth here. Not strongly negative, not strongly positive. The PNA, the West Coast Ridge, here we are positive. We go back towards neutral and negative right there. Just very slightly positive for the next 2 weeks. Okay. And if we look at the spread here, there we go. Now, having the positive, this is the European NAO here, and this here is the EPO. This should not be here. I mean to post this one instead. You can see this is the GFS here, and the GFS on the EPO, it's generally positive. Now, we don't want that. What you want to see is you want the negative EPO. Negative EPO means an Alaskan ridge, which means the cold air gets into the United States. We're not saying that here. So the EPO is positive. All right? That's not what you want to see. So this is not a great sign for cold air. It just isn't. It's not a complete disaster, but it's generally above normal, as you can see the next 2 weeks. Okay. Now, hopefully that's going to change by the time we get to, let's say, after December 20th to the 22nd. From the European model here yesterday, from their extended run, this here is the winds around the polar vortex at the top of the jet stream there, 10 millibars away, almost at the edge of outer space. And this is at the North Pole. So what we're looking at here is the blue lines, and the thick blue line is the mean. See how it continues dropping? This is the neutral line here. So the stronger these winds are, the more the Arctic oscillation is positive, okay? And the polar vortex stays very strong, and the cold air doesn't come south. The weaker, the more these blue lines are towards zero, the weaker the vortex, the better chance of the cold air coming south, the better chance for the jet streams phasing and producing big winter storms. Right? This was last week's. This is the new one. You can see the new one, you can see the mean line here is really plunging. Okay, by the time we get to the end of, by the time we get to mid-January, this is January 15th, this is really plunging. Okay, there's the zero line, so this is getting close towards neutral. And this is a big, big drop, right? That's a big drop. So it's pretty darn impressive, I got to tell you. This is a very, very weak polar vortex. The European model is going bonkers and ripping up the polar vortex as we go into late December, January. Absolutely bonkers and ripping it to pieces. And that implies a negative Arctic oscillation. Now here's the GFS showing the same sort of thing. This is from Tomer Berg's website. This was last week's, and this is the new one here. So you can see, again, we look at the blue line, the thick blue line, or in this case, when I look at the black line for the mean, all right? And you can see that it generally drops down, but notice the GFS keeps it neutral right here through the mid and through Christmas. It only begins to weaken a little bit after Christmas, then it drops down, okay? So this is a little slower than what we're seeing on the European. It's a little slower. So there is some difference here. Okay? So, and we'll see why there's that in a second. Again, this does not make a lot of sense to me. We'll get into that in a second. I think the GFS here is wrong. Now, here's the MJO, Boundary Julian Oscillations, for the next 3 or 4 weeks. We have the GFS ensemble here in the upper left, right? This is the CFS right here, the American climate model, and this is the Australians. Notice what these models are doing. The red line is the next 5 days, the blue line is 6 to 10 day, the purple line is 11 to 15 day. So they bring it in. We are in phase 4, phase 5, 6, which is very bad for eastern U.S. cold and snow. Then we go into phase 7 by around, on some of these models, by around December 15th. And then we go into phase 8 and phase 1 in the last 10 days of December. Okay, that's what that's showing. Now, this is phase 8 in December. It's really cold. Not a lot of storminess, but there is some moisture in the Gulf of Mexico to watch. So there is, but that's pretty stormy. The problem is that the other models, like the European, do not do that. The European is backing off of phase 8. At one point, it had phase 8 here, but now you can see the line goes to phase 7 and then it kind of stops, and the extended European turns it into the neutral circle. It does not get to phase 8 at all. See that? It never gets to phase 8. Okay. Instead, it gets to phase 7. Well, phase 7 is this. Now, that's not bad, but it's not phase 8. So, it's sort of cold, but there's nothing it's very cold. It's also dry. There's no moisture in the eastern United States. So, it's not a particularly stormy looking pattern. It's just cold. Now, the other thing here is the MJO, the Kyle McRitchie experimental MJO. He takes the mean of the last 4 CFS runs, and he plots them out here. Now, notice what the CFS is doing. Now, the CFS here, okay, has it going into phase 8 by December 20th. You see that? Right into here, phase 8, December 20th. But on this projection, it doesn't do that until December 31. See the difference? Big difference. This is 10 days later. And this kind of matches the European. So, again, so it does get into phase 8, which is the stormy one if you like winter snow and you like cold, okay, in phase 1, but not until late December. Not December 20th. That's back up here. That's phase 7. Late December. Again, late December. That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking this is too fast. This is just too fast. So that's what I'm thinking. Okay. Phase 7. Now, let's go into the 6 to 10 day. This is the operational European from this morning, and the European 198 hours out, day 9. You can see here, it has an upper low here, and then the bridge over the top of it, right? And that's fine, but then you get this weird configuration of 2 upper lows. I don't know what this is. This struck me as just bullshit. I don't think that's correct at all. So I'm not really sure what the European is doing. It's got a big ridge here in Western Canada, but we also have a positive anomaly. So even though this looks like a big ridge in Western Canada, the cold air doesn't get here. All the cold air is wrapped up in this vortex feast here. So I think all this is wrong. I think that's wrong. So at this point, I switched over to the GFS ensemble, and you can see it here. This is now for day 10, the GFS ensemble. Let me blow this up here. So there's your polar vortex stretching from Alaska into Baffin Island, Canada. You have a nice ridge here, Western Canada, and you have a positive anomaly in the upper plains and south central Canada. So there's some cold air coming southward, but it's not plunging out of the Arctic air. This is essentially modified Pacific air. Let me change this here. This is modified Pacific air. You see how the flow is coming this way? It's not coming out of Canada, nor the Arctic region. It's kind of this way. It's kind of cold, not really cold. It's sort of cold. Nice trough here in the Eastern Pacific. That's what the GFS is showing. And the European ensemble is also in very close agreement. You can see, look how identical this is to this. You see, very similar. Polar vortex here, trough here, trough here. This is very similar. All right. And then if we look at the surface map, what does that mean in the 6 to 10 day? Well, okay, so after the big cold front comes through on December 11th, the big high pressure comes in for several days. It's seasonal temperatures. There's some cold here. You can see the 6 to 10 day over the eastern United States. Not severe, but some cold. Near normal in New England, the Great Lakes. You see that, okay? And the high pressure is not, this is not cold Canadian Arctic high. It's just mild, moderate Pacific cold temperatures. Not a big deal. It's sunny, it's dry for most of the 6 to 10 day. Everybody eats the Mississippi River, no problems. Here's the 6 to 10 day. Again, if you look at the upper air maps, you'll see there's kind of an open wave in the southeast Canada. So we have an open wave 50-50 low. The Arctic Oscillation is neutral. The NAO is neutral. We saw that. The EPO is neutral. And the PNA is neutral going to positive. Okay. And the MJO is in phase, still within phase 3, 4, and 5. Down in here, hostile, still phase 5. Maybe going to phase 6. We'll see. Okay. Now, let's talk about 11 to 15 day. All right. Here's the GFS extended, 318 hour. This is day 13, something like that. And again, it's not great. This is December 19th. Okay. So the GFS is saying, this pattern change we're talking about, let's just wait a little bit and see what's going on with that. You got a nice ridge here. It's a moderate ridge. It's not Arctic. It doesn't go to Alaska, so it's kind of an ordinary ridge. A trough in the Rockies, the Plain States, a ridge here in the eastern United States. This is another cold front, low pressure area going up into the Midwest. That's what's going to happen here. And more rain on December 19th to 20th, 20th, 21st, when the cold front moves through. All right, the polar vortex, look at the shape of the polar vortex. Okay, when the polar vortex is shaped like a football, that's not good. That means you're not delivering cold air into the southern latitudes, the mid latitudes. This is very, very bad shape here. This is not good. I'm going to change the color on that one so you can see it. Yeah, this is very bad. You don't want that. Okay, so this is the GFS 384 hours out. Now, things are trying to change here. This is December 21st, 22nd. It's trying to change a little bit. Let's take a look what's happening. First, you can see that the ridge, which was here, is now out to here, and the trough is moving eastward, and the ridge is trying to amplify. So, okay, so you have a trough now in the Midwest, some sort of low pressure in the Gulf Coast. The ridge is still up in southeast Canada, so that's not good. And the ridge is trying to build here in western Canada, and it looks like we're seeing some kind of movement of the polar vortex from here to here. See how it's elongating? See how it's elongating this way, sliding over towards Baffin Island. So this might be the start of something. But this takes us to December 22nd. If we look at our regime patterns here, this is from Dr. Simon Lee over in the UK. Again, we have 4 different categories here, well, 5 if you count neutral. So there's a positive at NAO. We don't want that. That's North Atlantic blocking. That's the negative NAO. That's the Atlantic thumb ridge, which is not good. And that's no regime at all. So right now we are in the, you see as you go December 10, 11, you see all the positive NAO, right? Then what happens is once we get into week 2, we want either the red or the green. We want the red or the green to become dominant. So this is December 15th. This is Christmas here. This is January 1st. This is January 7th, January 4th, 15th. So what's happening is the red and the greens are increasing. You see how they're increasing? And the blues, which are positive NAOs, which you don't want if you like snow and ice and cold in the eastern United States, the blues are shrinking. See that the blues are shrinking. So this is a better regime for the North Atlantic. That's what that's saying. All right, in the 11 to 15 day, there's no 50-50 low to speak of all. There's a giant ridge there we saw. There's a big, huge ridge here. You can see that here. It's just, so there's nothing there in southeast Canada. The AO is either neutral or positive. I'm going to keep it neutral for the time being. And the NAO is neutral, the EPO is neutral, and you can see the PNA is positive. And again, this is not correct. We should be somewhere here in phase 6 or phase 7. So I'm going to have to redo these MJO tables because I have to redo them for December. Okay. Now, this is going beyond that. This here is, I guess, week 3. So let's go this 1 week. Let's change this up to here. So we're going to go into the extended now, week 2, 3, and 4. So this is the European that came out, the European Weekly last night. The evening of December 5. Now, we can see what's going on. This kind of matches what we're seeing here. Look at see this overall pattern? Look at this pattern. See how similar they are? So this is good. This means the European Weekly is looking pretty good here. You can clearly see there's some kind of polar vortex feature. Gotta change that color again. Right here, okay, and try to look like it's trying to elongate. You have kind of a ridging here, a broad trough here, no blocking in Greenland. I have a positive anomaly southeast U.S. coast. This is a cold front moving through the Midwest with rain and some Atlantic moisture, Gulf of Mexico moisture. That's what this is, and that matches this almost identically. So that's really good. All right. This is on the upper left. Here's the European from December 4. This is valid December 25. Okay? So let me call this up. I'm going to change this. I'm going to change the color on this one. You can see it a little better here. I'll change it to red. Okay. So this was December 4. Notice the ridge here. It's very nice. Okay. Big, deep trough over the southeastern states. Some blocking in Canada. This looks like a snowstorm on December 25 for the East Coast, or one about to develop. In some capacity. That's what this looks like. Now, that was December 4. What about the update? Here's December 6. Very similar. Very similar. Negative anomaly in the Bering Sea. There you have that. Nice ridge here. Blocking Canada. Okay, trough, northern trough, southern trough, negative anomaly in Georgia and the southern states, these are very similar maps. Very strong consistency. Now, here's the GFS. Very different. And actually, this is a good thing because I think the GFS extended models are crap for the most part. But the other problem is this does not match phase 8. So if we call up our market here again, okay, so this is the GFS from December 2nd, all right? And you can see what it was showing. You have a positive anomaly here, neutral NAO, so you almost have a ridge in southeast Canada. And look at the energy coming in from the Atlantic, from Alaska and the Pacific into the West Coast, into the Rockies. See all the negative energy? This is a monster trough coming in here. This is a mild Pacific pattern. This is nothing to threaten or show any kind of winter weather in the eastern United States around Christmas. Nothing. Now, the updated version here is a little more promising. And you can see, I have to bring this forward again too. Okay, so this is a little more promising. Now here the polar vortex appears to be shifting. Again, splitting in half here. Piece in Alaska, piece going to Baffin Island. The ridging here is stronger. Instead of a big negative trough here, we have a ridge. And the trough here is on the East Coast. But the NAO is positive. That's not a negative NAO at all. This is a rainstorm. It might be something for the Midwest. That's December 22nd, 23rd. Okay? And again, that does not match this. The GFS is in phase 8. That doesn't match it at all. So this is a big incongruity. So that's why I'm discounting it. Now here is the extended GFS for December 30th. Finally, the GFS at the end of December finally shows a winter pattern for the eastern U.S. Finally, but not before that. So this is a big change. It's not nearly as bullish as it was several days ago. Now, the European is still gangbusters for around Christmas, but the GFS is not. If you look at the European weeklies, this is week 3 now, December 25, January 1. You can see a lot of great stuff here. We can see that again in my mark. Let me call it up here. So the polar vortex is split. There's one polar vortex here, another one is here. That's the first thing. We're getting blocking in Greenland here a little bit to some degree. The trough is sharper and deeper on the southeastern states, stronger ridge on the west coast. This is, this is looking pretty promising. Pretty promising here. So having the polar vortex here split like this is very nice, and that allows the ridge to get very strong. So that's a big deal. So that's got this has the best chance since maybe 2009, the December 18th and 19th winter storm in 2009 on the East Coast. So, but we'll see. That's the European Weekly. Again, the GFS isn't showing that, but like I said, the GFS I think is bogus. This is the January 2nd through 8th, and again, look at that. You can see let me blow this up a little more so you can see it. So we have the polar vortex is split into two pieces. You have a strong negative EPO. The ridge extends from P&A ridge extending into Alaska, the northern areas. That's a negative EPO. Direct cross-polar flow from Russia, Siberia. Amazing cold on this map. Huge negative anomaly right on the mid-Atlantic coast. Strong negative NAO. Arctic oscillation is obviously negative. This is just ideal. I mean, just ideal. And the same thing for January 9th and 15th. Look at this. Wow. I mean, holy crap. And the thing is that the Europeans have been showing this now for weeks. Since September, they've been predicting a very aggressive January and February, and it has not changed. All right, so that's what the European weeklies look pretty good, doesn't it? Yeah, it looks really good. But again, the GFS is kind of, and the CFS are not that way at all. I did not present the weekly CFS, but they're not bullish at all for the end of December. Another piece of information we can look at for weekly models is looking at the MJO and the Kelvin waves. Now, this is from Paul Runde, who's a distinguished climatologist on the West Coast. I think he's in Washington State. And he does this on his website. There's the weather information. There's the website if you want to see it. Here, right there. And again, it's out of Albany, but I think he went to school at the located on the West Coast now. In any event, this is now what the jet stream map is going to look like according to this method that is used to develop. This is not really a model per se. It's not a weather model like the GFS of the European. This uses Rossby waves the MJO, and the outgoing long wave radiation, and it rolls it over for part of a regression. So you can see here, there's a big, strong ridge right here. That's exactly what we're going to see on December 9th. See how the ridges are very strong on the East Coast. And then you have a huge trough in the Eastern Pacific going into the Rockies and the Plain States, and that produces the rain. And if we look at we saw in the beginning here, that's exactly what this is. It's exactly what this is. It's the same thing. So this stuff, it appears to be working very nicely. Now, if we continue the pattern, this is December 16th. So we still have the trough coming in here. You can see right here, trough coming down this way. We're getting some height rises in Canada. So this is still December 9th to 16th, still a lot of energy coming in on the Pacific jet stream. By the time we get to December 23rd, though, this method this technique is producing a blocking pattern in central Canada. And the trough begins to shift towards the central and eastern Pacific. And that allows more blocking. So this is a somewhat colder pattern setting up here by December 23rd. We can still see a bit of a negative anomaly in the southwest U.S. and the jet stream there, so that might be low pressure. So again, this has some potential for Christmas in the eastern United States. And then beyond it, this is December 29th. Now look at this. This is a tremendous looking jet stream map if this is correct. Huge trough in the eastern Pacific, gargantuan ridging in western Canada, monster blocking in Greenland, strong negative anomaly in the southern United States. This looks extremely interesting. This looks like this. That's what this looks like. It looks like the European. It does. I got to tell you, this is what it looks like. And then finally, in the bottom one here, this is January 5. Look at the negative anomaly here, boys and girls. Look at this. This is quite impressive. Look at this right here. Huge ridge in Western Canada and a massive block in Greenland. Wow. So we'll see. All right, finally, almost done here. Let's look at the December 4th climate models for January, February, March 2024. So the European, this comes out on the 5th of the month every year. Okay, so I see the green line here. This is the December, let's start from this is the December Euro monthly model for the PNA, the Pacific North America, the West Coast ridge. Okay, when there's a ridge on the west coast of the jet stream of North America, it supplies cold air into the eastern U.S. and favors the eastern U.S. trough, which means low pressure on the East Coast, potential winter storms. When the PNA is negative, it means the trough is on the West Coast, like it is now, and you get a ridge on the eastern United States with mild temperatures. And low pressure areas usually track up into the Midwest. See last winter of 2022-23 and the winter of 21-22. Okay. Now the green line here, see the green line? That's the zero line. So this is all positive, this is negative. So as you can see, in December, the PNA is near neutral. In January, it's positive. In February, it's extremely positive, which again implies much cold air coming into the eastern United States. And March is neutral. Now here is the NAO. And the European ensemble monthly, again, you can see what's going on here. In the positive phase of the NAO, the 500 millibar low is close to Greenland, which favors a Midwest track, okay, outcomes. That means a lot of rain for the East Coast generally and mild temperatures. When the NAO is negative, it's a blocking pattern, okay, at 500 millibars in and around Greenland. And this favors colder temperatures and eastern U.S. winter storm tracks. So again, the green line here is the neutral line. So December, okay, the NAO is slightly negative, as you can see. And same thing as January. In February, it really plunges. Strongly negative in February. So you can see it really drops down here. And March, it's neutral. Now, last month in November, it actually had the NAO positive in March. So the NAO for March appears to be trending negative as well. And finally, here's the European monthly model. And this is for December. So we have here a positive anomaly here, some blocking in Greenland. You can see the negative anomaly in the I guess it's the polar vortex being in the Bering Sea in Alaska into the Central Pacific, and a kind of a negative anomaly in Texas. But this isn't a stormy pattern because you're not getting any flow of cold air into the eastern United States. It's just you're getting energy coming in this way, so you're getting low pressure, but you're not getting any cold air. Now, this is January. This is very, very promising. Monster negative anomaly right here in the Mid-Atlantic region, a strong ridge in Western Canada, strong block in Greenland. This is screaming winter storm. The European has been showing this in September. It showed this in October. It showed this in November. It's just really, really aggressive and very strong with this pattern in January. It will not back off. And this is February. Screaming winter storms everywhere for the eastern United States, specifically for the Mid-Atlantic and southern New England, if this model is to be believed in, assuming this is exactly right. Okay, and you can see the huge negative the negative anomalies off the East Coast, on the East Coast, and the very strong positive anomalies, the blocking in Greenland, the huge ridge in Western Canada. You could not ask for a better winter storm scenario. And this is March. March looks promising as well. A lot of strong ridging to the north, negative anomaly. This looks promising as well. Okay. So that's the presentation. So in summary, the last 10 days of December is when I expect the pattern to flip. Whether we get something on Christmas Day, Christmas week, a couple days either way, that's still a possibility. So we'll have to play it by ear. I still think the pattern's going to flip. I'm very excited about January, February, March, and maybe the last 10 days of December. This is meteorologist DT from Weather Risk. I'll see you over on the Twitter page and over on the website.